Welcome back to News 9. In fact, a very solemn day today wherein the former president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam's body was lowered into a pit, surrounded by his close family relatives who conducted the prayers, and the burial as of now is over. It took place in his hometown just a few minutes ago. Lakhs of people, not hundreds, not thousands, but lakhs of people came over there. And more to that was that the politicians were also there, from the Prime Minister to Congress Vice President to Union Ministers to Chief Ministers to members of political parties cutting across party lines. All were present to pay their last respects. Prime Minister Modi arrived over there. There was a 2-minute silence was observed. Thereafter, he went and met his family members. He spoke to his 98, 99-year-old brother. He was introduced to his other family members. And thereafter, the process started. There was also a 21-gun salute that took place over there. But what a solemn day, what a solemn situation that took place over there. It was something that we have not seen before. Lakhs and lakhs and lakhs. It all started this morning with his mortal remains after the rituals that were conducted at his home being shifted or brought to the mosque. And from the mosque, the rituals took place there very quickly. It was then handed over to the armed forces. Now, it's just about 300 meters from the mosque to this burial place, but it took them a very long time, and all because people were scattered everywhere. In fact, they were standing on the roads, the side of the roads, on rooftops. They all wanted to catch a last glimpse of the former president, the missile man of India, the former people's president, to put it more aptly, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. As of now, like they say, from dust you come to dust you go. The burial is over. The Prime Minister has left the venue. Senior ministers, union ministers, chief ministers have all left. And what remains is his grave right at the spot. In fact, we have with us over here Dr. Dominic Dixon and also my colleague Mohammed. Doctor, you know, we've been talking about this a very, very solemn day. I would call it a very solemn day today, because here you have this individual, the missile man of India, the people's president, being laid to rest over there with full state honors. And you see the people who have come over there, the people, huge numbers, lakhs together. It just shows what a great man this was.
You know, by virtue of being the president, you're the first citizen. And he was the first citizen to serve the country in his mindset. He was, his ideology was, I'm the first citizen, I want to be the first person to serve and not the first person to be served. He personified the adjective of being honorable. You say the honorable this minister, honorable that minister, and he put other people before himself. He was somebody who would reckon with the poor. He was truly a humanitarian, somebody who loved justice, who loved to uplift people. And amazing legacy that he left was he ignited the hearts and the minds of the young.
In fact, you can clearly see these are live visuals coming in from Rameshwaram, the makeshift bamboo barricades put up by the police over there. Lakhs together, the police, well, at least a very, it's not an unruly crowd as such there. Everyone's come there in order to bid farewell.
Absolutely.
Everyone knows, they all knew for sure they won't be able to actually see his mortal remains. They won't be able to come over there. But just to be here, be there, where the burial took place, was a big thing, a moment. I mean, it's just very different.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things, which a lot of people have spoken about Abdul Kalam, but what strikes out for me is that more than anyone else in the last 3-4 decades, anyone who's inspired the children of India, it is this man. You talk to any of these children and you ask them, who do you want to be like? Many, many times you just hear this, I want to be like Abdul Kalam. The kind of image that he built up, you could probably think of Sachin Tendulkar with his achievements in cricket. This man revolutionized being what a president was. No president perhaps in Indian history has had the kind of image that he in fact enjoyed with the masses.
But again, Mohammed, it all comes back to what Professor C.N.R. Rao stated, because when you talk about many other people who have excelled in their fields, they have excelled in their fields, point one, or they're really humble persons. But here, he's both. He excelled in his field, still he maintained humility. So he was both in one.
that is exactly the rare combination that he was in fact able to
That is what
personify.
endeared him.
And more than anything else, Nolan, if you look at it, he gave Indians the confidence that yes, on the scientific frontier, we can do it. Because in the 1950s and 60s, we were trying to import a lot of these technologies. But here was the man who in fact came and said, look, we can indigenize a lot
Why
of
are we
these
talking about
technologies.
50s, 60s? In the 70s
Exactly.
and 80s, we were still struggling.
Yes.
In my talk with C.N.R. Rao, he said something that was very interesting. He said he was someone who wanted to help and bring things to the center. And in one of his other talks, he was making a very pertinent point. Abdul Kalam, he said, look, we have signed this 123 agreement with the United States, but that is to make up for the deficit that we have for the uranium. True. If you look at the real nuclear power of India is not uranium-based reactors, it is thorium-based reactors, and that was something that he was pushing forward more than any other scientist that we can think of. That is where he was having India at the center. He said, we will play to our strengths, and that is what made him so extraordinary.
Because of the
And
thorium reserves that
exactly.
we have and the
With
technology
thorium
that we
reserves,
have worked on.
If not, India would have spent like some 14,000 crores by
just
exporting
importing uranium.
by importing uranium and by outsourcing the work, India would have spent at least 14,000
That makes us
crores.
extremely susceptible. Now we need to get uranium from Australia, we need to get uranium from Canada,
Exactly.
from Kazakhstan. It makes us susceptible when you're talking about our foreign policy.
True.
And the decisions that we can actually take. We really can't take independent foreign policies with relation to many issues, and again with these countries,
No,
because we are dependent on them.
If only we had a prime minister like APJ. You are looking at India on
Changing.
top of the world. You look at India, being so peaceful because people see everything is based on the leader that you have.
Very true.
Do you have a leader who's flamboyant, or do you have a leader who's a man of substance?
He was a man of substance.
Man of extraordinary substance.
That is why when you look at his legacy and you want to try to point out, look, this is where he excelled, then that is where it hits you. That
True.
this is a man who had excelled in so many different
He
fields.
just did not speak. It was not just talk
His
and more
words,
talk.
his
He
actions.
did work. He himself did work. So he proved everything.
He was someone who lived by example. He said, look at my life, and this is how I would like people to in fact lead. And if you also look at the way that he delivered his talks, he always ensured that he always spoke with some substance, and whatever he promised, he had always delivered. And this morning, we were just covering a particular story of a girl in 2004. Remember, that was in early days of his presidency. She writes a letter to Abdul Kalam. And guess what? The letter that this girl, who was in her 4th standard, gets a reply that is handwritten by the president. And how many people can imagine that in 2007, when he would be visiting Coorg, he had made a promise to the girl in 2004 that he would come visit her in Coorg. When he was in Coorg in 2007, this man remembered the promise that he had made, and he met her.
Amazing.
Politicians never keep promises.
No.
Politicians do not keep promises from one hour to the next, and this man,
1 minute to the next.
and this man being the president, he could remember the promise that he had made to this young girl who was in her 4th
It's very
standard.
interesting when you came up with this. In fact, another lady came here and who was instrumental in bringing Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam to Bengaluru for many times about 10 times she says, to speak to first at the IIM conclave, IMB, and thereafter address students. She says he never forgot. She said was the first time that he had come and she was comparing. He remembered her exactly 3 years later when he met her once more, and he told her father, on that particular day when she was comparing, this is what she said and this is how she was. He remembered everything 3 years down the line. Fantastic memory. I mean, the type of individual
That shows how much he actually
listened.
cares,
Yes.
and he invests in people's lives.
No, not only that, because many times you have these functions, politicians are just sitting over there dreaming. We
His
see our
namesake,
chief minister
yes.
half the time sleeping.
exactly.
But here he's actually attentive, keeping track of what's
Agile,
happening,
yes.
observing things around him, and knows exactly what's happening.
Exactly, and he's also, one of those people who connects on an individual level, and this is something which politicians do not do. They all address to the masses. They are interested in getting the crowds. If they don't get the crowds properly, they don't even appear for the functions. If I don't get these many people to address, then why should I go speak? But that is not what Abdul Kalam
He
was.
loved small groups.
Even
Yes.
if he had just about 100 people, 200 people, irrespective of who the people were, how young the children were, he always reached out to them and
It's not
always
100,
spoke to them.
200 Muhammad. In fact,
It's-
many
it's-
people
it's
tell
much
us it's just
younger.
few
It's-
people. He like
yeah.
10 people
younger.
together,
See-
10 individuals, he would come there and talk. He loved
If you
speaking
see
to
his
small
talks
groups.
to crowds, whether small or big, he will personalize his speeches. He will personalize, he will show his point his finger, he will ask them, did you understand?
Absolutely.
You know?
It's a very
It's
teacher
amazing.
teacher gene over there
Amazing.
to make sure and to also find out if people are awake. He would ask them, what did I say?
Yes.
What did I say? Then he would make
Can
them
you
repeat
repeat?
after him.
Amazing,
He would ask
amazing.
them to ask him questions. He would ask them questions based on what he spoke. So he wanted to see if people were attentive, if people understood what he said. If no one could answer, he would once more repeat. I've seen that happening.
Exactly.
If no one could answer what he asked, he would once more repeat the same thing till people actually understood. So this person really wanted others to know what he was saying. He wanted them to understand. He wanted them to question.
Exactly, Nolan. This is what is another very interesting aspect of this person. After his tenure at the Rashtrapati Bhavan, in fact, came to an end, a lot of people would have tried, okay, I have now become the first citizen of India, it is now time for me to go into retirement, but that is something that he didn't do. He said, I have been a teacher and I will continue to remain a teacher. And this strikes you, this is what makes this man so extraordinary. Even though he was the first citizen of India, he had been the president of India, but once he came out of the Rashtrapati Bhavan, he still went back to his old profession. He said, it is in children that I want to invest.
But this
and with them.
trait was seen even after he retired from service.
Exactly.
After he was the advisor, after he retired as the advisor to the Prime Minister, he immediately went back to Anna University. He was teaching over there.
He was on, I think, 3 boards or 3 faculty panels of 3 IIMs. He was a vice chancellor or chancellor of one of the universities.
And if I remember right, Doctor, when he became the president, just before became the president, he was, in fact, he had a PhD student under him, a priest, if I'm right, who was pursuing his PhD. And the moment he became the president, many assumed that he would be extremely busy. How can he be his guide?
The mentor.
But he went on to still remain that PhD student's guide,
There you go.
even as the president of India.
Shows the commitment level.
The prestige for that PhD student to state
Absolutely.
that the president of India then is my
Mentor.
guide and my mentor while I'm pursuing my PhD
Amazing.
in one of the subjects that he was teaching in engineering.
And can you imagine that PhD student? He will go out of his way to guide and to mentor other people. This is the ripple effect of goodness.
Absolutely, very true. In fact, finally, the mortal remains of former President Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam interred at his hometown, Rameshwaram. From the Prime Minister to the Congress Vice President, to Union Ministers, to Chief Ministers, to dignitaries from across the world, all were present in order to take part in this very solemn ceremony. Not just politicians and dignitaries, film personalities, and also lakhs and lakhs of people that come over there. It just went on to show the type of person he was during his lifetime, that even in his death, people wanted to be there. Thousands, the lakhs of people who were not able to actually view what was happening still wanted to be there, to be a part of this. Because for them, it was something very historic. No one looked upon this as a sad day, but it's about celebrating his life, celebrating the life of an individual who changed so much for India, who loved India, well, much more than many people, because for him, everything was about India. He wanted India to be strong so that India would be respected worldwide. He wanted India to have its own technology. He wanted India not to depend on the West. He wanted India to be self-sufficient, and he most of all when he came out with his books, Wings of Fire and India Vision 2020, he wanted India way back in early 2000s to be a developed nation by 2020. And he also came out with ideas as to how that's to be done. He researched completely as to how that's to be done. Well, in fact, we now slip into a short break, but do stay tuned.
ನನ್ನ ಜೀವನ ಒಂದು ಗಾಡಿ ತರ ಒಮ್ಮೆ ನಡೆಯುತ್ತೆ ಒಮ್ಮೆ ನಿಲ್ಲುತ್ತೆ ಕೆಲವೊಮ್ಮೆ ಓಡಿ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಆದರೆ ನನ್ನ ಗಾಡಿ ಯಾವಾಗ್ಲೂ ನನ್ನ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ನಲ್ಲೇ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಜೊತೆಗಿರುವಾಗ ಪ್ರೀತಿಯಿಂದ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀನಿ ಹೊಸ ಗಾಡಿನ ಕೊಂಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು ಅನ್ಸಿದ್ರೆ ಹಳೆ ಗಾಡಿನ OLX ನಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾರ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀನಿ ಟ್ರಾಫಿಕ್ ನಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾರ್ ಮುಂದೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೋ ಇಲ್ವೋ ಆದ್ರೆ OLX ನಲ್ಲಿ ಸಲೀಸಾಗಿ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಫ್ರೀ ಆಪ್ ಡೌನ್ಲೋಡ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಫೋಟೋ ತೆಗೀರಿ ಡೀಟೇಲ್ಸ್ ಹಾಕಿ ಆಡ್ ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನೆನಪಿರ್ಲಿ OLX.in ಮಾರ್ಬಿಡಿ
ಗೈಡ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಪ್ ನಂತ ಫೀಚರ್ ಬೇರೆ ಯಾವುದರಲ್ಲೂ ಇಲ್ಲ ಮಹೀಂದ್ರಾ ಗಸ್ಟ್
Welcome back to News 9. In fact, right here in our studio, we have with us Dr. Dominic Dixon and also Ms. Srividya Nagaraju, who's a learning facilitator. Thank you very much for coming over here, Dr. Dixon. You know, Srividya has actually had the chance to meet Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. Has got him here to Bengaluru to address students and various individuals almost, what, 10 times since 2008?
From 2000.
From 2008, so many years. Now, I was actually telling everyone over here your first experience when you met him, and years later, how he spoke to your father, how he remembered everything, the type of person who remembered every single detail.
Eye for detail was, I don't think I have seen anybody else could have that much of eye for detail.
You know, you have been associated with him today. Finally, he has been interred right there in his hometown. I mean, I asked you how you felt when you heard that he passed away. It's been now, what, 2.5 days? Almost 2.5 days, and finally, now all we have of him is his grave right over there. What was going through your mind? Because it's over now.
I know it's so difficult to hard to accept it. So rather, trying to think, today the messages are flowing for the last 3 days. Even in every social media, WhatsApp, we used to get jokes and we used to get, a lot of other forwards. Last 3 days, it's only about this great man and his messages. So it's quite emotional, obviously, and you feel it's a family member. The whole nation is feeling a loss like a family member. That's an amazing. I don't think we have seen, at least in our generation, we haven't seen such another person, right? Everyone is feeling, even on the road when you see everywhere, there is a silence, respect.
He took eloquence to a different level altogether. The eloquence in being humble, in reaching out to people, and a life of great sacrifice. Because if he had not sacrificed, I'm sure he would not even come here 10 times, considering his age.
Yeah.
Age did not really matter for him because he had the energy, he had the energy of a youngster. Many youngsters today, you see, do not have that energy. They cannot travel from one place to another. They get tired visiting different universities, talking to people. They don't do it. But here, he loved doing that.
I must now share with you about his energy, my experience. He starts from morning till night. He travels to any city. From the airport straight, he goes to a venue. where he's supposed to talk.
Well, he doesn't take a rest. He doesn't say, okay, you know what, I've just reached, I need to take a break. Let everyone wait over there. Nothing.
From airport straight, he came to the dais to IMB. When he even entered the campus, we offered him for a coffee or whatever. He said, no, first work. He came straight to the dais with the director. And the energy, you know, after the talk, we wanted him to, plant a tree there, for his memory. And he did not just touch and do it. He actually started digging.
Participated, wow.
Absolutely. Now, it's good you mentioned tree, because from the visuals you can actually clearly see there on the coconut tree, in fact, and various
Look
other
at that.
trees,
Wow.
they've actually managed to go climb right on top
Look at
there.
that.
This is
Just
better
to-
than India winning the World Cup, if you ask me. Look at the ceremony.
Various trees, the palm trees, coconut trees, other trees, they have managed to climb right on top there just to have a glimpse of what's really happening
Look at the
inside.
discipline. Look at the discipline of the citizens.
No, because everyone knows this is a very solemn affair. This is not a politician coming
but
across
the
there.
love and respect,
That's
can, as I said, people are willing to do anything. See, they can do anything. And I've seen this with the students. They will do anything to
Maybe
see
this is
man.
because he, as a person, a personality, radiated that. He showed that. Wherever he went, people understood that here was a man who who was all about punctuality, who was all about humility, who was all about understanding people, who was all about love for the country. So he radiated all this, and people
And we
immediately
could
understood
feel
that.
that,
Yes,
people who have seen him in presence, we could feel that radiation.
that patriotism, the love for the country. I mean, you're just there, and you understood. Oh my God, this person is something different. And mostly that's why you can clearly see people are not pushing, shoving everybody. They're actually standing there in a very orderly manner.
I mean, how people show gratitude to him. If you remember in the last, I was mentioning that how he gave a CD, he got up himself and went to a next room and got, and this is the one what he gave me. This is I don't know, I can never get a better gift than this in my life from anyone else.
Well, this is the one that he actually, when you visited him in the Rashtrapati Bhavan. So basically what you're trying to say is that when you went over there, this was when, how many years ago?
It's in 2009.
In 2009, when you went over there, you went and spoke to him in the Rashtrapati Bhavan. He got up from his chair, he went to the other room and gave you the CD.
Yes.
He didn't call his personal assistant,
no.
he didn't call people around.
And as I said,
but
I would
he
like to repeat, he asked me, can I give you
so sweet.
this particular CD.
this particular? Before giving, he asked, can I give you? Wow. Just that unforgettable.
No,
walk
but
that
more than that, it's about he himself going, he himself getting in. As the president, he was still the president then.
No, he was ex-president.
He was the ex-president, but still, in that
He
capacity,
enjoys the decorum,
he went,
yes.
he brought it,
Yeah.
and he gave it to you. I mean, it's just fantastic.
I'm sure he had everyone to come and do whatever he wanted
Oh
to
yes,
do.
but no, he didn't do that.
He didn't do that.
I mean, you should treasure this. I'm sure you'll be
Absolutely,
treasuring
this is close to my heart. I will treasure it for best gift I could ever
As
get.
a matter of fact, while the discussion was going on, I sent a text message to the Prime Minister and I said, please preserve the flag that covered his body. I'm waiting for the PM to respond.
No, it's also interesting, because we were just talking about this since you mentioned the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister over there, when he reached the venue, when 2 minutes silence was observed, 2 minutes or a minute, I'm sure it's 2 minutes, we were talking about what would have gone through his mind, because he's standing over there. He sees,
Reckoning.
he's standing in front of the body of this great man. Everyone's over there. The entire world is watching. India is watching. Lakhs of people have come there. What would have gone through the mind of the Prime Minister standing right over there? This great man's body, and everyone's there.
I'm
what,
sure
what,
the
what do you
loss,
think?
the loss, and his the power both are. I think it's a combination. The feeling is mixed feeling for everyone. While there is this feeling of loss, but yet you can feel that energy. That is the combination what we see.
Srividya, I read this earlier. Okay, this is from a blog that I've taken from, which is written by a former chairman of the ISRO, or Indian Space Research Organization, about his leadership skills. I read it, but I really want the viewers to understand the type of person Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam was, from someone who has worked with him, not from just someone, but from a former chairman of ISRO. He says, I owe all my achievements to this great personality. Then he went on to add, Kalam was a real task master and used to set impossible targets. At the same time, he used to be our motivator and facilitator. He used to check that we were on the right track, and if any mistakes occurred, this is important, he would help us analyze and resolve the issues. He was there. He saw to it that we achieved success in the shortest possible time, and he never blamed anyone for a mistake or failure. Rather, he used to encourage people to put in their best. When you talk about leadership, I'm sure in IIM they teach you about leadership. I mean, this what I read just now of a form written by a former chairman of ISRO. I mean, doesn't this just tell you, I mean, in brief, this is what a leader should be. Don't put the blame on others. Take the blame.
Exactly.
When there's achievements, say that they did it. I mean, that is what a leader is.
That's what the true leader is. In fact, when his talk to all the leaders in IIMB, there were 1,400 leaders. Either the already leaders or future leaders were present. His message was simple. When we asked him finally to write a message on a board, he said, work with integrity, succeed with integrity.
Yeah, that's what this quote is. He said, let me define a leader. He said, he must have vision and passion and not be afraid of any problem. Instead, he should know how to defeat it. Most importantly, he must work with integrity.
He says his honesty, integrity,
He uses these
transparency.
two words.
Two words.
I mean, there's this movie, A Few Good Gentlemen, I'm not too sure, I forget the name. He says, the person sitting next to the lawyer, he says, you use the words integrity and honesty as a punchline. We use it as our part of our daily life. So over here, he used it as part of his daily life.
If you look at the laws of indoctrination, I think Dr. Kalam, in his own simplistic way, was trying to indoctrinate our politicians. Hey, look, honesty is important, integrity is important, and I'm sure, like you to answer your question about when the Prime Minister was standing right there,
What would have gone through his mind?
looking at the mortal remains of APJ, I'm sure that the Prime Minister must have been thinking, what a legacy. And in all, no matter how hard the Prime Minister's ideology could be, this will definitely cause an impact on him. This will melt hearts of stone also, and cause people to make a change if perhaps they need a change in the areas of integrity and proper governance. Like we were discussing earlier, Prime Minister Modi is talking about Make in India. I mean, Dr. Kalam came up with this inspiration decades before this.
He did not want India to be always dependent on the West. He did not want India to be always dependent on Russia, even though Russia, then the Soviet Union helped us a lot, especially in nuclear science.
Yes.
But he wanted India to be independent. Right from your satellite launch vehicle, the SLV-3, to the Agni and Prithvi intercontinental intermediate range ballistic missiles, he wanted India to be self-sufficient, because I have used this so many times, but I'm going to state it again, because he always said this. If you want respect, you have to have strength. Only with strength comes respect.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So being a very soft man, but he realized respect comes from strength.
And the message he conveyed to all of us there was, one of his another dream is, this country has to become a knowledge society.
Yes, he would always speak about the knowledge society.
Knowledge society. That's. Look at the choice of words he comes up with, And he says, 3 friends for a good leader.
Yes.
3 friends for a good leader.
Father.
Innovation,
The other one.
innovation, devotion, and love towards work.
Wow.
He had imbibed all this.
He was
it was
following.
him. So basically, he was
by
just
it.
telling people what he was. So he practiced it. They say, practice before you preach. And actions speak louder than words. He was all this.
I think he was practicing more than he was preaching.
It's true, and that's
Right?
one of the saints said, when preaching, if necessary, use words. so Dr. Kalam, in his the integrity of his work, he preached through the integrity of his work. For example, you take Prime Minister Modi lobbying for the World Yoga Day in the UN. But Dr. Kalam, on his 79th birthday, the UN itself declared it as, the World Students' Day.
Absolutely.
So what more do you want? I mean, he did not have to ask for it. A true leader does not ask for recognition. Recognition is granted based on the integrity of your personality,
Very
the
true.
integrity of the individual you are. Because respect cannot exactly be demanded and, it is given by the individual.
Very
And
true.
here Dr. Kalam earned the respect from the nation and from the world at large.
You spoke that day about certain incidents when he had come over here. It's really interesting to once more know what really happened. Your first meeting, if you can just once more tell us about your first meeting with Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. How easy, I asked you that day also this, and how easy or how difficult, and you said it's not about being easy or difficult, it's about how
Persuasion.
much you tried to pursue it, and he saw that.
Right.
Can you just once more tell us about that?
I mean, that's the first thing he mentioned when I saw him. I was fortunate again MC on that day, waiting, and he walked with the director to the dais and he sat. And then after the welcome, he was coming to the podium. I was standing, and I'll repeat again the quote I said. Swadeshe pujyate Rajya,
Sanskrit, yes.
Vidwan sarvatra pujyate. Right?
Okay.
There is people get worshipped in certain parts of their area, but this man is worshipped ever because he's a scholar. Because of his knowledge in various things, because of his wisdom. I would like to use the word wisdom for him, right? And he comes, and first thing he tells me is, "You're doing a good job."
Wow.
And second thing, he asked me, "Who are you?"
Okay.
Who are you? I have the video too. I've been watching all those videos from the last
Actually
3
asked
days.
you, he asked, who are you?
Who are you?
What did
And
you
I
respond?
said, "Sir, I'm Srividya, Secretary of the Alumni Association." He said, "Oh, you are Srividya?" Exactly like a child. I'm trying to, imitate or whatever, emulate what he said.
Yeah, he had this very childlike behavior.
Childlike. And he said,
especially
"Oh,
the
you are
doctor.
Srividya." I mean, he could recollect. What I'm saying is that's the memory.
What he had read then.
No, because I had contacted his office. I'm sure they would have said, "What I don't know what exactly," but he said, "Oh, you are that person, right?"
This shows
I'm like,
how much in touch he was with reality, how much he was in touch with people on a personal level.
So basically, he didn't just allow his personal assistants or his PAs to go about with the
He
work.
was involved.
He would be there, hands-on approach.
Yes.
He was involved.
Otherwise,
yes.
how will somebody remember the name also?
Yeah,
I mean,
for him to ask you,
exactly.
"Oh, you are Srividya."
Just amazing. I was like, totally, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what words to express.
It's interesting that you mentioned this. I just want to once more come back to what he stated to this constable. I told you this earlier
Right.
because when you said this, that he actually asked you. He said it's a good job. The day when he died, from the airport to IIM Shillong, there was this one constable. I forget his name, who stood right through the route, right from on next to his car, because as a former president. From the airport to IIM Shillong, when he stops over there, you know what Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam tells him? He says, "Thank you, buddy." He tells the constable, "Thank you, buddy." Now, the constable was quoted in the newspapers saying that Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam actually asked him, "I'm so sorry." He actually told him, "I'm so sorry that you had to stand on this way. You must be tired now. Why don't you eat something?" Because, and the constable was taken aback. He actually said, "No, sir, for you, I don't mind standing however
Forever.
long possible."
Sure,
No,
forever.
it's, imagine a lowly constable and he says thank you to him. See the humility.
And
It
you were
didn't
talking
bother him.
about him not eating. That reminds me something. When he's eating, he loves vegetarian food.
Of course, yes.
Masala dosa is one of his favorite food. And if he's been given, if he eats, if he likes it, he will call the person who's cooked that, who's
And
made
say it's
that.
fantastic and thank you.
Yes. He asked them, in Vijaya College, he asked that student, he was a college student
Okay.
who's become a, whatever, catering, etc. He called him and he asked him, "What ingredients have you used?"
Where? Here, right here in Vijaya College.
Right,
So sweet,
in
yeah.
Bangalore.
Wow.
He asked him, "How did you make? What ingredients did you use? It is so nice."
All right, we'll come back to this, but after this short break, so do stay tuned.
Videocon Infinium Z Series, the world's most action-packed smartphones.
Once again.
back to the special discussion. In fact, the burial of the former president, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, is over with. The Prime Minister was over there, the Congress Vice President, various other union ministers, chief ministers, all were present. In fact, a very solemn affair over there that saw lakhs and lakhs of people. In fact, if one could call it the entire town was present over there, along with people from different parts of the state and country, and also dignitaries from around the world. In fact, now joined in on the phone line by my colleague Deepak, who's right there in Rameshwaram. Deepak, considering the fact that everything is over, what exactly is happening there now? What do you see around you?
Well, a little less than over right now, Nolan, because a lot of people still are here. They're lingering around this cremation ground here at Rameshwaram. We should understand that thousands of people had in fact come. None of them were even given entry close to this place where he was being buried because of the presence of several VVIPs, including the Prime Minister of India. The security here was tightened. It was put on heavy guard. At every point, it seems like this volatile crowd could break in any time. There were sometimes a few barricades were even broken. They even made their way inside. A large platoon of policemen had to come there, control the situation. They were not even carrying lathis with them because it was a gathering which was supposed to be peaceful, because it was they had taken security measures. A lot of policemen were on guard, but at any time things could break loose, and they were on their course at every point in time. Even as we speak, thousands of people are still around the place where he's been buried. Now they are being slowly led a little closer to the place where the burial took place. A little earlier, it was about a 200 to 300 meter radius around which the people were spread out, and the VIP entrance was a complete separate one where no people were in fact being allowed. And while the burial was in fact it states itself that most of the VVIPs were made to leave because there were a lot of security concerns around these areas, including the Prime Minister who first left the area, after which the Chief Ministers of different states would arrive, including the Chief Minister of Karnataka, Srividya, who was also here, the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, Chandrababu Naidu, the former Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, Paneer Selvam, Rahul Gandhi was also here, Venkaiah Naidu, and several other leaders from different states, even Kerala as well, were here. So they all paid their final tribute to APJ Abdul Kalam, after which in fact it was the 21st salute which was offered to the former President of India. The conditions here also pretty humid, pretty hot. Even the army personnel, some of them even fainted here due to the heat. It was overall a mesmerizing event. It was an event that every person who will come here will remember for a very, very long time. Though it was the final journey of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, it was done with full national honors, and it was a sight to behold, but a very, very sad moment at the same time for everybody who had come here. It was an enigmatic experience here, Nolan, as the body was being buried, there were chants of Vande Mataram, there were chants of his name that was echoing around this entire place in Rameshwaram. We are in fact standing at the Bay Karam, or the Go sugarcane plantation. Earlier it was a sugarcane plantation, now it has been flattened. The entire place now will turn into a place that is forever. People who come to Rameshwaram will not just have the temple, but will also have another place to visit. That is the burial ground of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam. All the roads leading to this place right now are jam-packed. The VVIPs have been made to leave from this area, but the localites here are still gathering around, they're still lingering around. They want to at least go look at the burial ground here. Some of them have come from Karnataka, Kerala, North India, and a lot of people from the state of Tamil Nadu as well. They've come yesterday after they got an opportunity to have a view of the mortal remains of APJ Abdul Kalam. They've made sure they stay back and look at the burial ceremony and then go back. And most of them have not even had rooms to live here. Some of them have even stayed on the street. They stayed up all night. And it just goes on to show how many lives this man has gone on to touch. It goes on to show that he was just not a personality. It is the end of an era, it is the end of an enigma, and overall it just defines that what a great personality he was, how many lives he touched, and it reflected upon the crowd that has gathered, not just today but even yesterday. Lakhs of people, Lauren. Even though the mortal remains were kept for public viewing, it was scheduled till 8 o'clock. It had to be extended because the sheer number of people that had gathered. Many people still didn't get an opportunity. Even early in this morning near his house as well, there was a lathi charge at about 6:30 in the morning, because huge the number of people had in fact come here to see what's happening there. There again, barricades were put up in different areas. So overall, the situation right now pretty much calm, but a while ago was volatile and was mental. And overall, the experience here was something that cannot be defined in mere words. It was it was enigmatic to say the least, Nolan. But it is a sense of grief that is felt among the people in Rameshwaram. But they each person you speak to, they say that though he's no more physically, but his memories and his words and he was in fact born in this place in Rameshwaram. So many people associate him as the child of the land of Rameshwaram. So that will always remain in the hearts of people forever.
Thank you very much for all that. In fact, my colleague Deepak, right over there in Rameshwaram, he has been tracking all these updates and since the past 2 days, since Monday evening. This is what happened earlier. You can clearly see behind the Air Chief, Chief Minister Srividya also was present over there. So, Prime Minister, the Congress Vice President, you had Chief Ministers, various southern states especially, Union Ministers, various other foreign dignitaries, all present right over there in order to pay their final respects and also pay homage to this great man, the Missile Man of India and the People's President. Well, in fact, in our studio, we now have with us Dr. Stella Samuel, former principal, Bishop Cotton Girls. Thank you, ma'am, for coming over here. And we also have my colleague Bansi, senior correspondent, a special correspondent actually, right here. Thanks, Bansi, for coming over here. Doctor, you know, instead of feeling sad, don't you suppose that the entire country should celebrate his life because the type of individual he was? We need to try and imbibe all those personalities, those traits that he had.
Of course, I do believe in that. Such a wonderful man, and his life should be, all of us should adore and we should follow. If we follow, each and every student of our nation, if we follow, definitely our country will be in 2020, it will be one outbeing country in the world. Definitely.
He always wanted that. It was his vision,
exactly.
India Vision 2020, to see India as a developed country.
Of course, that's what he spoke in our school.
Okay.
When he came to our school in 2004, we were celebrating our 140th year celebration, and it's so difficult to get the availability of the president.
Okay.
So we went with our school captain and our school treasurer, Mr. Richard, and two other girls. We went to Delhi to invite him.
Okay.
So many formalities, but when we reached him finally, such a simple and humble man, he stood up and welcomed the children.
Okay.
He took the children the other side, that is his side, and
as the president.
The missile. Yes.
As the president.
As the president.
Wow. Okay.
Hats off to him. He is for children. Always he adores students, and he showed them, see the missile, my children, you have to be like this.
This is where? In the Rashtrapati Bhavan?
In the Rashtrapati Bhavan, in his office, he spoke to my students like that. You should become scientists. And the children were amazing. The children were so very thrilled. They were so happy. And we had such sweet memories of him. And when he came to our school also, he didn't go to the stage first. He straight away went to the children audience. He shook hands with the children. He was talking to the children first.
That would have been something.
Really, we couldn't, I just can't express my feelings at that time. We were all waiting on the stage for him, whereas he ran to the children, where they were all eagerly waiting. There were amazing welcome for him by the children too. It was not only Bishop Cotton Girls.
Fantastic.
All the 10 schools were there at that time.
Do you remember what he actually spoke?
Of course,
What did he say? Yeah, please tell us.
He said, all of you should think that you can achieve and you are the winner and you are the best and you love God and everything will come to you. So he imbibed such good values, and he said, you all dream, but don't dream in the dream in the night. When you dream, you can't sleep in the daytime. You'll be wanting to achieve that. So you'll be an achiever. So he really encouraged our children so much, and we sang, our choir sang the song A Dream. I have a dream, that dream they sang. And he said, yes, all of you should dream, but not only the night, dream in the day and achieve it.
So you won't be able to sleep because you want to achieve that.
Yeah, that will be.
How does the choir song go, the choir song Dream? Do you remember the lyrics?
I have a dream. That Bonnie M song, no?
Okay.
I have a dream.
I have a dream. Yes.
Bansi, now you have actually, as a reporter out there, covered so many of his. Whenever he came to Bengaluru over here, you have heard him speak. Can you just recollect some of those? Because it's not just him speaking, but the kids over there, how they responded to him.
Well, as a speaker, it was not his eloquence,
Okay.
it was not his language or the fluency of English that struck a chord with the people. It was his heart.
Okay.
He was not a man who spoke with a rich baritone, or he was not a 6-footer.
He was
was
flashy
not
oratory, nothing
yeah,
as such.
he was not one of those Hollywood stars types. But when he spoke, even if it was with a rich Indian accent, he had a rich South Indian accent.
Yes.
When he spoke, people listened, and there was such an instant connect when he spoke. Although as a person, it was all of us know Abdul Kalam. So when he spoke, there was that instant connect. Something in his chemistry. It was in the chemistry that happened.
You'd not find it boring at all. You're there, you're just trying to listen because everything was different. He could make. I remember one of the one instance where I was reporting, and he was speaking about science, okay, to these students because they were about your 10th, 11th, 12th grade, and he made that so simple that even if you don't like science, you're like, wow. I mean, why don't I like science? You start thinking.
Exactly.
I mean, what a man. Srividya, when now you have spoken to him. I spoke to Bansi about how he has come here. He spoke about it's not his the words he used or the flashy oratory. It was the type of person how he spoke to them.
Right.
There's this instant connect. Now, 10 odd times he's come over here. Do you remember any of his speeches?
Of course, as I've been quoting now his messages from I Am Bangalore, and also when he also has a message like what ma'am was saying to students and to teachers.
Okay.
So he has specifically 11 points, a message to all the teachers.
Okay.
If teachers can start practicing them, or he
what were those points?
Okay, there are 11 points.
Okay.
First and foremost, I love teaching. Teaching is my soul.
Okay.
How powerful each one message.
Okay.
And he says, all my actions with my students will be with kindness and affection like mother, sister and brother.
Okay.
And I will organize and conduct my life in such a way that my life itself is a message for my students.
Absolutely. I mean, he has actually done that. His life itself is a message for the entire nation now. It's not just his students. I mean, we see him, we see this great man, a missile scientist, a former president, a person who has a lot of humility. Absolutely true. Can you just repeat that, what he said? My life itself?
I will organize and conduct my life in such a way that my life itself is a message for my students.
Till his end, he followed that.
He did.
Well, what are the other points? It's just fantastic, fabulous.
I will celebrate the success of my students with great elan. Not my success, my students' success. I will continuously build the capacities in teaching so that I can impart quality education to my students.
He did that. While he was in ISRO, when he was in DRDO.
He was ever learning. That's the beauty of it.
He never stopped.
He was ever learning. He's a lifetime learner.
In fact, the Upanishad says,
Okay.
Swadhyaya pravachanabhyam na pramaditavyam.
Okay.
A teacher is one who can never stop learning and teaching.
Exactly.
He doesn't say you should. The effect is it's not there, you should do it. You cannot stop.
All right.
And this man lived up to that,
Wow.
Great teacher.
Yeah,
Great
exactly.
Wow.
And I must share this. Yesterday when I was in the Chartered Accountant Institute, teaching negotiation skills. But at the end, I wanted to convey his message.
Okay.
Till then, there was so much of, the noise, the discussion, talking, youngsters.
Okay.
The moment this name, everyone is
Abdul Kalam.
silent and everyone's attention is to listen to me. What his message. And everybody were more than happy to take that oath of his message as a youth of my
What's
nation.
Message which you actually made them to take an oath on?
Definitely. As a youth of my nation, I will work and work hard to achieve that.
He made everyone repeat after him, right?
Everyone
Everywhere, wherever he
Everyone
went,
he
made
made,
this. The youth of the nation were very important to him. To dream, he believed in the youth of the nation. He believed that if they could do something, if their dreams were converted into reality, this country would of course be something different. We'll discuss more about this, but after this short break.
लाइफ में जाने कहां कब क्या हो जाए, इसीलिए सिस्का गैजेट सिक्योर।
Free repair on breakage, free replacement on theft, antivirus protection. Cisco Gadget Secure.
जब भी नया गैजेट खरीदें तब
Cisco.
Once again,
Sultan Diamonds and Gold. ಈಗ ನಮ್ಮ ದಾವಣಗೆರೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಗ್ರ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಶೋರೂಮ್ ಇನಾಗ್ಯುರೇಷನ್ on the 2nd of August 11 AM at PB Road, Davanagarhi. Sultan Diamonds and Gold.
Welcome to Sultan.
ಒಡೆಯುವ ಮುರಿಯುವ ಅಣ್ಣ ಬ್ರೋ, ಮಮ್ಮಿ ಡ್ಯಾಡಿಯ ಹಾರರ್ ಶೋ, ಅಯ್ಯೋ ಡೇಂಜರ್ ಇಡೀ ಮನೆಗೂ, ಭಯವೀಗ ಟಾಯ್ಸ್ ಗಳಿಗೂ, ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಪ್ಲಾಸ್ಟಿಕ್ ಬಾಡಿ ಸರ್, ಇವಕ್ಕಿನ್ನೂ ನೋ ಫ್ಯೂಚರ್. ಎರಡು ಲಕ್ಷ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ಸ್ ವರೆಗೆ ಟೆಸ್ಟೆಡ್, ಡ್ಯೂಯಲ್ ಶಟರ್ ಸೇಫ್ಟಿಯೊಂದಿಗೆ, ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಪ್ರೂಫ್ ಹಾಗೂ ವಾಟರ್ ರೆಸಿಸ್ಟೆಂಟ್, Philips modular switches, built to last. Innovation and you. Philips.
Welcome back to this special discussion. Now we have been talking about, well, the life of APJ Abdul Kalam, especially when he came to Bengaluru over here, how people met him, what sort of the traits that they have actually imbibed. Bansi, this is very important. This man here wanted things to be changed. He just wanted everyone to change, and he tried to do that in his speeches.
See, if you looked at Abdul Kalam very closely, then you would see those traits of a leader, because he is not a leader of a normal stature. He's a superb leader, because a leader is someone who has no malice towards anybody.
Yes.
And you didn't notice any malice in this man.
No.
You saw that higher level of love, because which man will care so much for another individual that he is concerned genuinely? Because I remember listening to one of his speeches at the Palace grounds. This was when he was president. And there was such an instant connect with the people. He led them through an oath. This was one of the first occasions I was hearing the oath. And I still remember those in the back benches. Even as he was administering the oath, some of them didn't get up. They were just sitting lazily. But as he made them go through the first few lines of the oath, I saw even those last benchers get up. And they were participating in the oath with all enthusiasm. So, this was his connect to the people. Because now, of course, people know about his oath. People know that these are the lines. But those days, they didn't know. And I could see very reticent characters sitting in the last benches. But once those words hit them, then they participated.
They were just simple words, but with a lot of meaning. Doctor, you also were telling us during the break about, the energy that he had,
Oh, yeah, superb energy. As he was entering, all of us were rushing to see him giving the bouquet and so on. All of us were looking at him. Straight he went to the children first, and he spoke to them by one or two lines. Then the stage, our stage was very huge, say, from this end to that end. Literally, he was walking so fast, our bishops and everybody had to run at the back of him.
He had
literally, he's so fast in his walk. And all of us, like Boys School Principal Dr. Ebenezer and Cathedral Principal, then Dr. John Zachariah, all of us were looking at him. He's so fast, swift in his movement, and then he took his place at the stage. Amazing. His energy at that age.
He's extremely punctual. He did not want to waste time.
Yeah, exact time he came. Yeah, it came.
And I must share something. In an occasion where it was an event, he came little earlier for the event.
Yes.
Okay, where his slot
Don't tell
was
me
there.
the other people were not there.
No, not like that. And other sessions were going on
fine.
where he was supposed to. He came early, but look at the time sense or the respect with the times. So people wanted him to come onto that. As he said, no, my time when it comes, I will come there. So he sat next to a teacher. He was interacting with the teacher.
Wow.
And he completed the conversation. When somebody else called him, he did not get up and go. He completed the conversation and he moved. There's so many instances where he lived
these
little messages.
You know, Doctor, these small things, you know, actually make him such a great man. All these small points show him. You know.
This is what I made a mention just yesterday in a public forum. I said this. What Pope John Paul II was for the Catholic Church in terms of reconciliation for the wrongs the Church has done, Dr. Abdul Kalam was that for Indian democracy. He spelt out Indian democracy in whatever our panelists were talking about, in the individual that he was. He knew that the office of a government office was there to serve and not to be served. I'm sure if anyone was offended by him or by the office he held, he would not hesitate to go down on his knees and apologize. This is the type of leadership that India needs to see. And I'm telling you, because of this beloved man, lives of many people will be changed. He's inspired me. As a matter of fact, we were sharing earlier, I've been called into politics many times over. And I was sharing 2 months ago with people that I want to become one of India's youngest presidents. And one of President Obama's advisors was sitting with me, and he was talking about, he said, yeah, you have the potential to do that. And now I'm even more motivated to do it because I want to follow in the precepts of this great personality, perhaps continue a legacy. Because a legacy like this is like the bird that never dies. It's like the phoenix that just lives on.
Very true.
You know, and his legacy will never die.
Srividya?
Yeah, in fact, he added the same thing. He mentioned the same thing in I Am Bangalore. He wanted just not become leaders and managers. He said, you have to become politicians. And he said there are 2 types of politicians.
Okay.
You know, there's a political politician,
okay,
and there's a developmental politician.
All right.
So the message for him is to, most of you, the learned, so-called knowledge, wisdom people have to enter politics to make it more healthy and, you know, take this country forward. I mean, it reminded me when you said that, and I'm glad you have such visions.
It's true, because being in the public domain, a lot of political parties keep calling me for the past many years. And I've somehow restrained from it because, like you said, we may be a misfit with the political mindset, but then again, when you look at somebody like Dr. Kalam, there's always hope of you contributing when you sit in that seat.
Very true, yeah. Bansi, you know what? He actually mingled with a lot of politicians. He was a president right over there. So he had to deal with politicians from various parties, but still he kept himself political.
Yeah. Absolutely. If you see Dr. Kalam's attitude, he was a man who was a reluctant politician. Yes. All of us know it. He was not comfortable in politics because birds of a feather flock together, and you could see this bird did not fit in with the rest.
That's why I said he's a phoenix.
This bird just stood out from amongst all of them. Because it is true, when he was the president, and even as he mixed with the others, you could see he just stood out. I'd like to recall one moment I interacted with him. He was at the Christu Jayanti College, participating at one of the programs, and I was trying to get an interview with him,
a chit-chat.
Chit-chat. And even as I walked up to him, I saw his security men very menacingly trying to say, no, you know, this is not the time, it is not in the itinerary, it's not planned, and things like that. But I just boldly went up, walked up to him, and I said, can I get an interview? And he looked at me, and even without a second's hesitation, he said yes. And then the camera person who was with me said, the light is too dull here.
Okay.
Can you imagine that this man who's a former president walks up to a place where the light is better?
Yeah.
He actually walks up with me where the light is better. He stands there, even as he does the white balance. Normally the camera person does the white balance. He waits patiently till the white balance is done, and then he answers my questions and then leaves. Amazing man.
And also he's very humorous in his speech, you know. He'll make it a point to make it very interesting and humorous. One small point I recollect which he spoke in our school. When he became the president and he was in IIT, and one big huge truck came to take his luggages. And he came out with a small briefcase. That's all he had. So everybody looking at him, where are your luggage? That's all he said. So everybody laughed because he's a simple, such a simple man. He never had anything of his own, very little.
No, it was this simplicity that actually allowed, allowed you and the camera person with you then to actually go ahead and do this interview. And also it was because of his simplicity that he had the patience to stand there, let the camera person get, the white balance, everything done, and then go ahead with the interview. I mean,
and he will stand wherever you ask him to stand for the photographs. Just like a child. You just say, sir, please come here, he will come.
He'll come there.
He'll just come. Very, very sincere. Very, very sincere. Simplicity. I'm sure many would have experienced that on the dais. If you put a special chair for him, he will not sit in that. Okay. He will ensure that his remote and the same chair which is for the rest of the people on the dais, he will get it removed and only sit.
One beautiful thing about Dr. Kalam is that he had this paternal instinct in him.
Yes.
He greeted everyone, maybe if it's a 3-year-old or a 90-year-old, he always understood that he's a father. Because being the first citizen of the country, he demonstrated the paternal instinct. And I really wish our politicians would demonstrate a paternal or a maternal instinct when dealing with people. Because civil society looks up to these politicians. We've elected them there. Obviously, the president is not elected by civil society, but nevertheless, he showed politicians what it is to be a leader. True. A leader is there to serve and not to be served. And when I read my Bible and I see that Dr. Kalam lived what my Bible tells me to live, and here is a human inspiration for me to live as a good human being, leaving religion out, leaving politics out, and how to treat people. He lived, he preached, he proclaimed through his lifestyle.
He practiced what he preached.
Exactly.
All right, another short break, but do stay tuned now.
That's me. No one can touch me. ಸಮಯವ ನೋಡಿ ಸಂಚರು ಮಾಡಿ ಹಾಕುವು ಮೋಡಿ ಕಿಲಾಡಿ ಜೋಡಿ ಚಿನ್ನದ ರಾಣಿ ಬಾರೆ ಕೊಳ್ಳನ ರಾಣಿ ಬಾ
ಈಗ ನೀನು ನೋಡು
ಅಲ್ಲೇ ನಿಲ್ಲಯ್ಯ ಓ ಚೆನ್ನಿಗರಾಯನ್ನೇ ನಾ ಬಲ್ಲೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ನನ್ನ ಮನಸ ಕಟ್ಟವನೇ ನಾ ಹೋಗಿ ಬರುವೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ನೀ ಎದುರು ಬರುವೆ जंगल में सिंगल शेर नाम है उसका बब्बर शेर
ಚಕ್ರ 2 ಇರ್ಲಿ 4 ಇರ್ಲಿ ಯಾವುದೇ ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸವಿಲ್ಲ, ಏಕೆಂದ್ರೆ ಕಾರ್ನಂತ ಫೀಚರ್ಸ್ ಇರೋ ಮಹೀಂದ್ರಾ ಸೆಂಟಿರೋ ಮತ್ತು ಮಹೀಂದ್ರಾ ಗಸ್ಟೋ
ಯಾರಿಗಿಂತಲೂ ಕಡಿಮೆಯಲ್ಲ.
Videocon Infineon C Series, the world's most action-packed smartphones.
My fans expect a lot of me, and I like to meet their expectations.
Just like TGS fulfills their home buyers' expectations. TGS Constructions.
Committed to match expectations.
Welcome back to this special discussion. In fact, no doubt the mortal remains of Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam were interred at in his hometown, that is in Rameshwaram. We are today celebrating his life, the type of person he was, the type of traits he had that sort of instilled some sort of confidence, especially among the youth. He loved children. I mean, he really loved children. He wanted them to dream. I mean, you spoke about that. Doctor, also you spoke about that. He wanted them to dream. You've explained to us all those, different instances when he was here. Now, you spoke about these 11 points. You went through about 4 or 5 points. What are the others very quickly? Because they're very, very important. Everyone should know them.
Right. I realize that I'm responsible for shaping not just students, but ignited youths who are the most powerful resource under the earth, on the earth and above the earth.
Okay.
I will be truly committed for the great mission of teaching.
He was throughout.
Very, very important here. I will consider myself to be a great teacher, for I can lift the average to the best performance by way of my special teaching.
That is, in fact, the job of every
he
teacher.
Says, you know,
that is the job of every teacher. Yes.
He says, don't focus on 90% boy and get 95. Focus on this and, 35, 40 and get them to 60.
That is what will say if you're a teacher or not.
If I may mention, because of people like him, I am who I am today. I was a dull student, failed in 5th standard, failed in 6th, failed in 7th, and kicked out of school. And finally, I graduated from Harvard and Oxford, and with honors on top of the class. It is because of people like him who've inspired us that no student is a dull student. Today I'm the chairman of 5 organizations, including a research institute called Ethos. And it is because of individuals like him who was not quite eloquent, but were loving, were challenging, who challenged us and said, okay, look, you can achieve. And that is why I do what I do today, is because of personalities like him who have championed, not just challenged, but championed minds.
All right, now we are running out of time, but there is this oath. There's this oath that he would always want, not just the kids, not just the students, but everyone standing over there, the media, the administrators, everyone, right through the doorman, the drivers. He wanted everyone to take this oath. Now, we will come back to that oath, but before that, Bansi, any last thoughts on this great people's president?
Well, one thing about Dr. Kalam is, if you look at all the presidents of India, the great presidents, from Babu Rajendra Prasad downwards, how many of them do you really remember? How many of them had a people's connect? Let's say Babu Rajendra Prasad, all right, he was a freedom fighter. Dr. Sarvepalli Radhakrishnan, all right, great teacher. After that, how many do you remember?
We don't remember.
Hardly anyone. But this man, you remember, so brilliantly you remember.
For everything.
For everything. Although he is a former president, you don't remember him like a former president. A president, they say, is a rubber stamp.
Yes.
He's just a titular head.
Yes.
But this man was so much more. He was like a man who motivated hundreds and thousands and millions of people across the nation.
All right. Doctor, what about you, Doctor? What would you finally, your last thoughts?
Yeah, greatest man. He was student president, and not only that, their happiness was his happiness. He always said, you should love your mummy. When you love your mother, the family will be happy. When the family is happy, the society will be happy.
Yes.
When the society is happy, your state will be happy. When the state is happy, the whole nation will be happy. So he said, no, every individual you can start in your home.
All right. Now, you know what, since we're running out of time, let's all take that oath once more. You know that oath. You have heard him so many times. Let's all take this oath today. Everyone, everyone in the studio.
Yes. And this is what he gave me in person as a knowledge card.
Please.
To convey the message.
We will end with that. What's that oath? And we will all repeat after you.
Can we have the hands on the heart?
Of course.
Okay. I take courage to think different.
I take courage to think different.
I take courage to travel into an unexplored path.
I take courage to travel into an unexplored path.
I take courage to combat the problems and succeed.
I take courage to combat the problems and succeed.
As a youth of my nation,
I
will work and work.
I will work and work
with courage.
To
achieve success. In all my missions. This is a tribute to the great man.
A huge tribute. Thank you all for coming over here. Absolutely, hats off to him. News and updates continue on the other side, and please do remember that oath.